Welcome to XIO Voice. Continuing from the previous episode 245. Bang! An earth-shaking sound suddenly reverberated over the entire mountain like a thunderous roar from the sky. A terrifying energy storm formed at this moment, after which, it swept in all directions. The entire mountain trembled under this ferocious energy storm. Numerous 10-foot wide fissures swiftly spread, after which, they stretched to the edge of one's sight. This sudden energy storm that had erupted attracted the attention of the many high-rank magical beasts on the mountaintop. However, all of them were greatly shocked when they sensed just how frightening this energy storm was. After which, their footsteps hurriedly rushed away from the mountain. A battle of this level was not something they could get involved in. The spreading energy ripple easily flattened nearly half of the forest on this mountain. A 1,000-foot wide pit gradually appeared within Xiaoyan's sight. Hiss! Even with Xiaoyan's calm demeanor, he involuntarily inhaled a breath of cool air as he stared at the bottomless pit that was nearly 1,000 feet in size. Such terrifying destructive strength was indeed worthy of the battle between members of the Do Zun class. Permeating yellow dust had just risen into the air when it was blown away by the wild wind. Xiaoyan's eyes swiftly swept over the area below, after which, they paused on the body of old Mu Jiyu, who was suspended in the air. At this moment, the chest of old Mu Jiyu rose and fell slightly. His breathing was no longer as calm as it was before. Clearly, that attack had exhausted him. Where is Xiao Zhan? Xiaoyan's eyes suddenly searched. He looked at the bottomless pit as his brows slightly knit. Inside it, Ziyan's finger pointed to the interior of the deep pit. Her watery, large eyes contained a flickering purple-colored glint. Roar! Ziyan's voice had just sounded when a soul-stirring roar suddenly erupted from the pit. After which, it transformed into a substance-like sonic wave that spread apart with a bang. It once again sent a deep layer of yellow soil on the ground flying. Bang! The roar slowly weakened, after which, the entire mountain suddenly began to tremble. Numerous thunderous muffled vibrations were emitted from that deep pit. The expression of old Mu Jiyu changed when he heard this sound. His dark, cold eyes were focused on the seemingly bottomless pit. Boom! Another terrifyingly loud sound suddenly appeared. Immediately, an incomparably large body leapt out of the deep pit like an enormous tower. After which, it suddenly landed on the ground. The entire mountain violently shook when his feet landed on the ground. A shocked expression involuntarily flashed across Xiaoyan's eyes as he looked at the enormous being that had leapt out of the deep pit. That thing, that had revealed itself, was a 100-meter large bear. The large bear was black in color and the fur all over its body stood like metal needles. There were 8 silver hairlines on the chest of the large bear. However, the thing that surprised Xiaoyan the most was the 20-meter-long black-colored tail behind it. When this giant tail was swung, it was accompanied by the sound of wind splitting apart. From the looks of it, this tail was just like a dragon's tail. This is ancient dragon bear? Xiaoyan's eyes swept over the silver-colored hairlines on the chest of the large bear before immediately focusing on the dragon tail behind it. A glow flickered in his eyes as he muttered to himself. A dragon bear was a ferocious magical beast that was extremely rare to find because it was considered a unique beast of the ancient times. Moreover, its body vaguely possessed a dragon's blood, and it possessed a terrifying strength. Based on what was recorded in the ancient texts, this kind of dragon bear was also called 9-line demon dragon bear. The silver-colored hairlines on their chests was not merely for appearance's sake. Instead, it was used to judge its strength. It is rumored that when this dragon bear possesses 9 dragon lines, the dragon bloodline within its body will completely awaken. At that time, the dragon bear would undergo a transformation. If the transformation was a success, it would evolve into the ultimate dragon bear. Once it evolved, all it needed to do was raise its hand to shatter mountains and crack the lands. Hence, these kinds of hairlines were also called dragon lines. The current Xiao Zhan already possessed 8 dragon lines. If another were to appear, this large fellow would become the ultimate demon bear renowned for its ferocity even during ancient times. It is unexpected that I am actually able to see a dragon bear here. How incredible! Xiaoyan involuntarily shook his head and sighed. It is only a dragon bear. It is only strong because of the hint of its dragon bloodline. Ziyan, who was in Xiaoyan's embrace, curled her mouth slightly as she replied. By being able to possess the dragon bloodline, it is enough to state its strength. Bloodline is really too important to magical beasts. When I had just arrived in the Central Plains back then, someone from the Heavenly Demon Phoenix tribe had nearly found the Heavenly Demon Phoenix essence blood in my storage ring. Xiao Yan smiled and spoke as he suddenly recalled the events at the Wind Lightning Pavilion back then. Heavenly Demon Phoenix? They hurt you? Zi Yan's small hands, which were hanging around Xiao Yan's neck, suddenly tightened. A glaring purple glint suddenly flashed across her watery eyes. Her small, bright red tongue gently licked her small lips. No, but I refined the wings of a Heavenly Demon Phoenix into a flying doe technique. If I use them in the future and someone ends up recognizing them, there would indeed be some trouble. Xiao Yan's eyes stared at the enormous dragon bear as he randomly replied. Relax, if they dare to come, I'll ensure that none of them return. Zi Yan's small head leaned against Xiao Yan's shoulder. She used a voice that only she could hear to softly mumble. Xiao Yan did not hear what Zi Yan had said. His attention had been focused on Shangzan, who had transformed. Perhaps it was due to his actual body having appeared, but Shangzan's aura was even fiercer compared to earlier. A pair of blood-red, large eyes were staring at old Mu Jiyu, who was like an ant in the air. Again, Shangzan's feet suddenly stepped forward. His distorted face revealed a ferocious expression. His fist also smashed toward old Mu Jiyu. A wild wind surged across the sky. The whistling sound of wind splitting permeated the entire mountain range like a low drum beat. Even old Mu Jiyu did not dare to underestimate Shangzan's punch after he had transformed into its actual form. Old Mu Gu's hand seal changed, and the space in front of him distorted. It quickly formed a thick spatial barrier. Bang! A large fist that was covered with black hairs violently landed on the spatial barrier. It easily blasted the spatial barrier apart. The large hand immediately spread and the black-colored hair on Shangzan's hand shot like arrows in all directions. These black, sharp hairs moved at extremely terrifying speeds. With a flash, they appeared before old Mu Jiyu and had a deep yellow energy trace. Clearly, these things might not appear great, but if one were to be struck by them, one would definitely not feel good. With old Mu Gu's eyesight and experience, he would naturally not slight the attack of the other party. The seal formed by his hands changed. After which, he opened his mouth and blew. A deep blue flame shot out like a fire pillar. Finally, it collided with the sharp hairs. The frightening temperature of the sea heart flame caused the hairs to quietly vaporize. They transformed into clusters of grayish ashes that flew down. Shua! The flame had just been spat out when a black figure suddenly rushed over from the sky. The terrifying wind caused old Mu Gu's expression to change a little. The seal formed by his hands quickly changed. After which, the fire pillar from earlier immediately agglomerated into a giant fire beast that was a couple 100 feet large. It launched toward that black figure with lightning-like speed. Kai! The black figure descended down. After which, it collided with the fire beast. A terrifying strength split the fire beast into two. The remaining force rushed through the air and descended, forming a deep scar, a couple of 100 feet large, on the ground. The black shadow broke through the fire beast and rotated in the air with a whistling sound. Old Mu Jiyu glanced over. Only then did he discover that the black figure was Shangzan's enormous dragon tail. This beast really possesses incredible brute force. Numerous spatial cracks appeared when old Mu Jiyu looked at the enormous swinging tail. His eyes involuntarily shrank, and his expression was a little ugly. If they were to really fight with Doqi, it was likely that Shangzan would not be able to defeat old Mu Jiyu even after having transformed. However, Shangzan was able to engage in an all-out fight without any concern, but old Mu Jiyu could not. He still needed to participate in the subsequent pill gathering. He needed to become the champion and take the opportunity to snatch the 3,000 burning flames. If he were to engage in an all-out life and death fight with Shangzan here, what remaining strength would he be left with to compete with the others? It was impossible for old Mu Jiyu to really engage in an all-out battle with Shangzan due to him having such concerns. However, if he did not really go all out and fight, it was impossible for him to defeat Shangzan. This kind of situation caused him to fall into an infinite loop. He was unable to obtain both no matter what he did. A glint quickly flashed over old Mu Jiyu. It was a long while later before he violently clenched his teeth. His eyes viciously turned to Xiao Yan in the sky as he coldly cried out, Xiao Yan, consider yourself lucky this time around. This venerable self will personally finish you off once the pill gathering is over. I will keep you company. A cold glint flashed across Xiao Yan's eyes as he coldly laughed. Once he obtained the 3000 burning flame and refined it, he would no longer be afraid of this old fellow. HMPH. Old Mugu's face slightly twitched upon hearing Xiao Yan's. Immediately, his cold eyes turned to Shang Zan, who was standing on the mountain like a metal tower. Both of his hands tightened with a great unwillingness. He finally ceased doing any useless tasks a moment later. With a wave of his hand, the surrounding space slowly distorted. His body immediately moved, and he rushed into the distorted space and disappeared. Xiao Yan, leave this little life of yours for this venerable self. Old Mugu's figure might have disappeared, but his ice-cold voice still penetrated space as it slowly reverberated across the sky. Xiao Yan narrowed his eyes. A fierce glint was flickering within his dark black eyes.